My friends, Jeff Allen off the Gridiron. Welcome back. I'm spending a beautiful autumn day on my property here in Southern Ontario. And I want to share with you my final thoughts on the BeaverCraft Shadow Compact BSH5. Stick around. You're going to want to hear this. So the BSH5 by BeaverCraft has been a knife that I've carried in the field for the last little while. It's certainly stood up to batoning, ferro rod striking, fine carving, and so on. One of the number one things that I've appreciated about this knife, certainly in this time of year when you're dressing in layers, is you can't always access your knife because of these layers, certainly on a belt carry. And with this belt loop, I found it quite light, quite thin, and I was always worried that I was going to get hung up and maybe kind of sheared off when I'm wearing it on my belt, not to mention the difficulty accessing it. So what I've done is I've put a ring on there. I'll show you up close. A solid ring and a little bit of paracord with an adjustable kind of a knot system this way, so you can adjust the length of it. And then I've included a zip tie on there just to secure it a little better. But that's the best way I've decided to use and carry this BeaverCraft knife, the BSH5. The thumb stud and the retention continues to be sufficient. It's nice and light. Okay, and I guess if you really pulled on a knife, it would probably shear past that thumb strap. But by and large, it suits the purpose that way. And you can see it just hangs down when I'm doing a lot of through the woods, bending over, collecting wood. I can always tuck it away in my shirt. But yeah, the edges held up pretty well. This is my first. It looks like a scanty on film, but actually, this bevel here, it's a hollow grind, if you will. So it really steps down from that shoulder down to this kind of secondary bevel in a hollow grind. Very hard to showcase that on film, but I would really love the scanty grind. I noticeably missed that, just that dependability of that edge. And in the field, I really like having that scanty grind flat to really hone it up and touch it up in the field. The hollow grind really lends itself to a good slicer, but that secondary bevel is really all you're relying on for all your cutting tasks. One other thing I did with the knife is I sharpened the spine. And after I sharpened the spine, I actually gun blued it over top so it really matches that bluing or oxidization. You can actually see some of the milling lines coming up on the flat surfaces on either side. And to the touch, you could almost feel that as a bit of a texture, but it really doesn't affect it. I really like that little cutaway there. Noticeably, that's where I kind of start and finish any of my sharpening routines. But it's been a really handy neck knife. Now, in terms of durability, it seems like a very tough steel. I can provide the stats, and you can check out the BeaverCraft website yourself. But it does hold an edge fairly well, unless you're cutting some kind of abstract materials, and that tends to dull it really quickly. I was using it for some cutting of fabrics and so on, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but some very tough nylon webbing and so on, it tends to dull most knives quite quickly, and it certainly did with this one. But the edge was easily kind of brought back with a couple passes on my various sharpening systems, and it seems to be good to go. So at my wilderness survival weekend, where we had a number of students, this is a knife that I continue to use, and it's suited for a primary for the course, but certainly you would have to question your own skill sets and what you look for in a primary knife, whether you like something this dimensions or something a little larger. It's typically how you use a knife. I did find the wooden scales held up very well, and I often just treat them with a little bit of a linseed oil or something similar to that. The I don't know if you can see the pronounced screws that hold the scales on. They didn't bother me. I thought that would kind of bother me a little bit with prolonged use and hot spots, but they really didn't interfere with the use of the knife. No lanyard hole on the end. That's certainly something that I prefer. And I just, even the tip and the bevel, everything lines up very well. And it seems to work exceptionally well. Let's grab a stick and do a little bit of carving. Just grabbed an old down branch of maple, but it is quite sharp. I mean, this bark's coming off. I mean, it doesn't take much to take bark off a branch, certainly a dead and down branch. But no, I'm trying to see if you can see. What I did notice was that, let's see if you can pull it up there. It really takes some practice to get the angle right. Scanties are a little different. They have that really easy bevel to follow. This is just a hard piece of maple. And if you're conscious about how you're using it, you can produce a nice pile of curls. These are all obviously just little micro curls off the surface, but you know how to, many of you already know how to feather stick and so on. Feather sticking is not something easily done with hardwood, but this is a quick piece of hardwood maple. But you can really lean into it, take some of those big cuts off fairly quickly, and obviously, batoning and so on and so forth. But the blade holds up very well. So the question was raised, does it throw sparks? And this is a very popular style of ferro rod. It's well used on here. And I have a definite shoulder, I've ground on there a nice little burr on the spine on the back of my knife. And I don't know if you can see that. I could definitely feel it wanting to grab the ferro rod, but it just seems to slide and slip over top. So for whatever reason, it really doesn't love throwing sparks. Maybe it's a combination of my ferro rod. Got another knife here. Let's see if that throws sparks. Wow. I think it really matters. I think the steel really matters with how well it throws sparks. So whatever the metal they've used for it, it's certainly not something that seems to be working for me. Maybe it works for you. So my final thoughts on the BeaverCraft BSH5 Shadow Compact are the following. I think it's a suitable camp knife, neck knife, if you will. I don't know, I wouldn't call it a survival knife, and due to some of the preferences I have, it wouldn't be the best bushcraft knife. But what I've learned is, obviously a lesson from our forefathers. It's not the equipment you have, it's your skill set and how you use it. This knife would be more than adequate for many people, including myself. I have certain preferences in a knife that have grown to be, that I look for in a knife. Certain qualities of grind, materials, and so forth. And sometimes that even changes depending on the season I'm in, whether it be a winter survival camp out or more of a kind of a summer excursion, canoeing around water and so on. I have different preferences for a knife for different reasons, depending on the seasons and what I anticipate to need the knife for. So in all honesty, I think the BeaverCraft knife is ranks pretty high for me right now. I think due to some of the deficiencies that I look for in kind of that, high heavy duty sheath, and again, just kind of questionable duration. Obviously I've only had it for a little while. I think I would probably give it a 7 out of 10 if I were to give it a ranking. And again, with further use, that may change, plus or minus that. But in terms of initial impressions, I think that's what I give it. But I certainly love the neck knife feature and capability. And that's the best way I find to be able to utilize the Bushcraft Shadow, is that neck knife, for that neck knife option. It is a little heavier than some other knives that, you know, commonly worn around the neck, some of your Moras and so on. But I think that's the best way that I find this knife to be useful for my kit. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Again, this was a quick kind of reflective review, looking back on my use of the Bushcraft Shadow. And I still think it's got a place in my kit until something else comes up. So anyways, that's all for now. Please text me below, send me a comment if you have any further questions about the BeaverCraft Shadow, and I'll happily answer them. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your outdoors. This is Jeff Allen signing off. Bye for now.